Each year we call upon an alumna or alumnus of uncommon distinction to address the graduating class, someone who embodies a commitment to excellence and a distinguished record of achievement, someone who personifies those four defining leadership principles. In true Berkeley Haas fashion, we questioned the status quo for your special event today by bringing you not one, but two commencement speakers. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Nikhil Arora and Alejandro Velez, BS09, co-founders and co-CEOs of Back to the Roots, an organic food and gardening company based in Oakland, California. At Haas, we affectionately call Nikhil and Alex the Mushroom Boys because, now don't misinterpret this, okay? Now, because 9 years ago they decided to forego lucrative consulting jobs available to them after they learned in a Haas class that gourmet mushrooms could be grown on recycled coffee grounds. They launched a kitchen experiment in their fraternity, doing just that, and it did work. The experiment has turned into a national brand with a line of products that help millions of families reconnect to where their food comes from. Back to the Roots gardening kits are now integrated into thousands of classroom curricula, and its breakfast cereal is the first organic cereal ever offered in U.S. public schools. It now helps feed more than 1 million kids in New York City each morning. In the process, Nikhil and Alex have created many new jobs in communities that really needed them. For all this, they have been recognized by Forbes and Inc. magazine's 30 Under 30, also CNN's 10 Next Gen Entrepreneurs, also President Obama's Champions of Change, also Martha Stewart's American Made winners, and the awards go on and on. Please join me in a warm welcome for our Alex and our Nikhil.
First off, thank you, man. Thank you so much, Dean Lyons. Good morning, Berkeley. Good morning, Haas. Yeah. This is awesome to be here. This is such an honor to be sharing this moment with all of you and all your families as well.
Yeah, and Dean Lyons, I have to say, too, it's great to be here with you today as we wrap up an incredible tenure at Haas, so we want to say congratulations as well. So thank you for.
Now we particularly remember this because the last few weeks of college, while most of our friends were getting ready to go into banking and consulting, Nikhil and I were going dumpster diving at 6 a.m. for old coffee grounds. And it was interesting because then we actually remember so clearly when we were sitting right there and we heard Dean Lyons repeat our commencement speakers at the time. The lesson was, zig when others zag.
Yeah. And, you know, as we're looking back to, we'll never forget our graduation ceremony when our chancellor at the main campus graduation, he shares with the thousands of graduates in attendance what we were just starting to work on. And he advised, he said, don't follow the herd, like Alejandro and Nikhil. He's like, we're growing mushrooms on coffee grounds. And he paused, and the whole Greek theater right here just starts busting up laughing. And he tries to save himself. He's like, no, I'm serious. They're growing mushrooms on coffee grounds. Just more laughter.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought two guys growing mushrooms in college was too Berkeley for Berkeley?
So, Dean Lyons, after 9 years since graduation, we can both say with a big smile and our fair share of entrepreneurial scars to prove it, we certainly feel like we have zigged.
And it all started for us right here at Haas. We still remember it like it was yesterday, man. When we first heard this idea in Professor Alan Ross's class, we heard that you could potentially grow mushrooms on coffee waste, but nobody had ever done it. We thought it was the most random, but also pretty cool idea. And actually, Nikhil and I didn't know each other at the time, but we were the only two crazy kids who went up to the professor and asked for more information.
Yeah. And that one sentence in Alan Ross's class was literally the start of this whole adventure for us of building Back to the Roots. A company on a mission to help every family and every kid across America experience that magic of growing food and knowing where it comes from. And I have to share, though, too. So I later learned that this whole thing almost never happened, because my boy Alex was here, was the last one in class that day, and almost got the door shut on him by Professor Haas. So it's seconds away.
And, you know, it was right there, after knowing each other for just a couple months, sitting in a 1992 Toyota Camry on top of Piedmont Street on top of Haas, that we shook on it and went all in together. So that very same day, I called the investment bank I was about to join, and in one phone call, I gave up my dream job that I had worked so hard for, a six-figure iBanking job on Wall Street. I gave up my lease in Manhattan's Lower East Side, and instead, I decided to go all in with Nikhil, who had just himself given up his consulting offer and moved on to his older brother's couch. So, literally overnight, we went from full-time students and soon-to-be banker and consultant to full-time waste collectors and mushroom farmers.
And as we now step back onto the same stage that we graduated from, we're not going to stand up here and give you life advice, because honestly, we're still figuring all that out ourselves. And we're not going to be up here telling you how to sell a business for millions of dollars, because we're still deep in it. I mean, literally just last week, we raised our Series B financing, and we're still head down every single morning. Alex picks me up at 6:45 a.m., we carpool to work together. But through this journey, what we have learned, from a bucket of mushrooms to building a national brand that's now touching millions of lives, we've learned and experienced firsthand how the conventional rules of business that have defined capitalism for hundreds of years are being rewritten as we speak. And the business world you all are graduating into is beginning to feel a lot different than that which our textbooks taught us was business gospel. A new form of capitalism is emerging right now.
And it's emerging because the traditional rules of business, rules that all of us have read thousands of times in textbooks and case studies, are being broken as we speak. Broken because the status quo is no longer enough in business. It may have gotten us here, but it ain't gonna get us there. It's just not enough. So today, we wanna talk to you about 5 of those rules that are being broken.
All right, so rule number 1 of conventional old school business. To be successful in business, you have to be an expert in your field. That's just not true. We're the generation, right, that now has all the world's knowledge in our pocket. Right? We're the generation that can teach ourselves anything at any time. When we taught ourselves how to grow mushrooms on YouTube, right? It's not about what you know. It's about knowing what you don't know and finding the answers.
And it's not just the information expertise either. It applies to relationships too. You don't need a big Rolodex anymore to be successful in business. For instance, the first article that was ever written about Back to the Roots was by the Daily Cal. Yeah. After that article came out, we Googled every writer that had ever written about sustainability, and we just emailed them the article, and we said, hey, we would love to share our story. Fast forward 6 months, and the BBC aired a 5-minute spot globally on the company. And since then, we've had the tremendous honor of sharing the Back to the Roots story with President Obama over a 90-minute meeting with him, Jim Cramer's Mad Money, and even the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
And Alex, don't forget about being on The Bachelorette. But all of this happened without a press agency and without years of contacts, right? We just had the internet. And you don't need to be an expert or have deep industry relationships to get into and succeed in retail either. Our biggest partner to date, the Home Depot, that's selling millions of dollars of our indoor gardening kits now nationwide, started off with a cold email to a buyer who we only had the first and last name for. Remember, we were guessing all the different variations. First name, dot last name. First initial, dot last name. One went through, and that was literally the start. So the new rule number 1 is you don't need to be an expert to be successful. All the world's experts are in your pocket.
The second conventional old school business rule that you've probably heard is that you need a lot of money to start something new and be successful in business. Not true. The big Silicon Valley funds aren't the only options you have now to go for capital anymore. Through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, AngelList, CircleUp, and ICOs, we've seen the decentralization of fundraising and the ability to unlock capital no matter where you live in the world.
When we're looking to launch our second product, the water garden, we needed $100,000 for the equipment. And we were looking to create the first home aquaponics system. It's a self-cleaning mini ecosystem that uses the fish poop from the fish tank to grow plants above. And we decided to put this project up on Kickstarter, right, for 30 days, $100,000 goal. And our community came through. We raised $248,873 in 30 days, and then an additional $250,000 on our website of pre-orders. So we had raised $500,000 from our own community with one prototype and a 2-minute video. All right, and you fast forward, and that community momentum from Kickstarter translated to our first outside funding from a nonprofit in Oakland, $500,000 investment from Fund Good Jobs, and then later, $20 million now of venture capital from investment funds and larger corporations, including Scott's Miracle-Gro and Campbell's.
So the new rule number 4, I'll repeat it because that was rule number 2. The new rule number 2, you don't need a lot of money to be successful in business. Capital's been decentralized.
So rule number 3 of conventional old school business, keep a secret and keep people out of your business. Right? There's a lot of talk about the power of privacy and secrecy in business, right? The classic Coca-Cola formula. But the game's changed. Transparency is the new norm, and you're going to start seeing it in a bunch of new ways.
As we built our vision of connecting families and food to food again and expanded from ready-to-grow indoor gardening kits to ready-to-eat breakfast cereals, we asked ourselves, how do we bring that same radical transparency and connection you get when you grow your own food to packaged, ready-to-eat food as well? In doing this, we decided to really push the boundaries and actually tell our consumers on every single box of cereal, not just exactly what farm our ingredients came from, but also the exact recipe of how we make it. And right around the time we were launching our cereals at Whole Foods Market, the board of directors of General Mills, the largest cereal company in the world, invited us to meet. We'll never forget when in the meeting, the chief marketing officer of Mills advised us to take our cereal recipe off the box. She said, with my 30 years of business experience, I never would have thought it'd be a good idea to share your IP with the world.
And just a few months later, after that meeting, our cereals displaced Kellogg's to launch into the New York City public school system, the largest district in the country, helping feed 1.1 million kids every single day. And becoming the first organic cereal in history ever offered in U.S. public schools. And those cereal cups, well, they still have the recipe on them. And the best part about transparency, though, is that the old school businesses, they can't hide behind multi-million-dollar flashy marketing campaigns, right? That clever Super Bowl ad just isn't enough anymore. If a product has a 1-star review on Amazon, we're not buying it. And so the new rule number 3 is that power in business comes not from secrecy, but from radical transparency.
The fourth conventional business rule that we've all heard is about that zero-sum game, that for me to win, you have to lose. Not true. For small businesses to win, big businesses don't have to lose. We all can work together to accelerate impact. For example, Campbell's and Scott's Miracle-Gro, both multi-billion multinationals, have invested millions of dollars into Back to the Roots. They're helping us scale revenue and reduce costs by leveraging their sales, marketing, and supply chain expertise. We're helping them rethink innovation and push for a faster speed-to-shelf strategy. And suppliers and buyers don't have to always extract value from each other either to win. When we're getting started, we source our coffee grounds from Pete's Coffee, adding so much value to them by taking care of their heavy and just messy waste that we eventually replaced waste management. And in return, we got paid to source our biggest raw material. So we provided them a more efficient waste service, and in turn, we were able to make a profit on our own cost of goods. And thanks to that, it allowed us to bootstrap the company for many years. So the new rule number 4, it's not I win, you lose. It's win, win, win.
Nope. And rule number 5, the last but probably most impactful conventional business rule that we've all heard is that a business should maximize shareholder value at all costs. Not true. Right? The conventional business rule is that the sole reason a business exists is to maximize shareholder value, right? And that the few lucky ones that make it, they create a CSR team that then picks a nonprofit once a year to write a check to, right? But today we've seen that there are so many ways to create profitable triple bottom line businesses that also integrate the community, the team, the environment into its everyday stakeholders. Right? Like Patagonia with their supply chain, Method with their sustainable sourcing and packaging, and Tom's Shoes with their one-for-one model. And in fact, we were so inspired by the Tom's model that we ended up creating a similar Grow One, Give One campaign, where for every photo someone shares of what they've grown with one of our indoor gardening kits, we donate one to a classroom of their choice. And by integrating that program into every unit we sell, our own community has now helped tens of thousands of kids across the country grow their own food. And the more people share, the more brand awareness grows. It's this incredible, beautiful cycle.
And by the way, it's okay to take inspiration from others. In fact, Blake, the founder of Tom's, so appreciated seeing his idea transfer into indoor gardening kits and food that we became his very first angel investment after Tom's. The new rule number 5, what's the best way to maximize your own value? Give value. Because the more you give, the more you get. And listen, while we've stumbled through all these lessons, one mushroom kit, one cereal box at a time, we hope they help open your eyes to the massive transformation of business that's happening right now, right under our feet.
Yeah. New rules are being written as we speak, creating space for a new form of capitalism, conscious capitalism. Capitalism that aims not just to make money, but to elevate humanity through business. And Back to the Roots is just one example of it. It's happening all around us. Right? 2 massive multinationals, Danone and Unilever, have announced their goals to become benefit corporations, or B Corps, directly embedding the business impact on multiple stakeholders beyond just investor returns into their metrics for success. And Larry Fink, the CEO of the world's largest investment firm, BlackRock, with $6.3 trillion of assets under management, just wrote a letter to CEOs demanding that all companies, both public and private, serve a greater public social purpose.
So how cool is it that the hundreds of years since 1776, when Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nations and kick-started modern capitalism as we know it, that you all get to graduate from the best university and the best business school in the world at this time, a time when all the conventional rules of business are being ripped up to create space for a new form of capitalism, a form of capitalism that doesn't separate doing good and doing well. How awesome, right? And what responsibility too? Because we also carry with us all, as Golden Bears, the legacy of this incredible university and the social activists who have graced these halls and walked the streets of Berkeley for decades. The movements that were incubated right here: free speech, anti-war, gay rights, women's rights, farm workers' rights.
So as you get ready to enter the business world, realize that the old rules have been ripped up and the world is looking to you to help write the new ones. New rules for a more inclusive, a more sustainable, a more transparent, and a more conscious capitalism. And you don't have to do something crazy like growing mushrooms on coffee grounds to help build this new form of capitalism. But you do have the responsibility to carry this flag forward into wherever you go after graduation. Be the one who makes that big bank judge themselves not just by returns generated, but by carbon sequestered. Be that one who inspires that big consulting company to push their clients to adopt better business practices.
So Haas graduates, the next chapter of capitalism is in our generation's hands. It is ours to write. So let's make it a good story that future graduates will be proud of us for.
Congratulations. Go
Bears.
Bears.
Go make history, Haas. Thank you.